Welcome to Uncloseted Conversations. Even if you stumbled upon this channel by accident, you are welcome here. The stories here are from my heart, from my soul, from my pen to your ears. I hope that you will stay a little longer and open yourself to the magic of storytelling. Here I write fiction, and though not always aligning with reality, it still tugs at heartstrings. Stories are escapes and sometimes a balm to the soul. So, enjoy your time here, and if reality presses down too loud and too hard, come knock at the door, come in, take a seat, grab a coffee, and just exhale. These are veil-bound stories, and the space is free and non-judgmental. Sit back, earphones or pods in, and let's listen to another exquisite romance. Hearts Between Worlds. Love can bridge the living, the lost, and the legacy we leave behind. Chapter 1. What Floats? Dr. Calliope Brunston lowered her glasses and rubbed her eyes until the fluorescent lights blurred into halos. 11 hours on her feet. 11 hours fueled by burnt coffee and whatever chemical courage lived in the black sludge in the break room. She rolled her neck until something clicked, breathed through the ache, and stepped behind the curtain for the next patient. 2 hours later, the ER finally exhaled. Calliope slumped onto an empty bed, scrubs whispering against vinyl. She leaned back, eyes closing, just for a second. Just long enough to pretend the world wasn't sharp-edged. Then she felt it. That familiar wrongness. Like pressure behind the eyes. Like a tide pulling inward. She sat up abruptly, head tilting, then shook it hard as if she could dislodge the thought. "Not now," she murmured. "Please. Not now." The room was empty. Too empty. A figure drifted through the curtain. A teenage girl, translucent at the edges, bare feet hovering inches above the floor. Her movements were loose, unfocused, as if gravity had forgotten her name. She wandered through the ER, pausing at doorways, peering inside, then moving on again. Cal swallowed. Her chest tightened with the knowledge she had spent a lifetime pretending didn't exist. She followed. The girl stopped at several rooms, tilting her head, brow furrowing, then drifting away. Finally, she turned. Her eyes met Cal's. "Are you a doctor?" the girl asked. Cal nodded. "Can you help me find my body?" There it was. Clean. Simple. Devastating. Calliope Brunston was not just a doctor. Long before medical school, before she learned how to cut and sew and restart hearts, she had learned how to see. Spirits. Echoes. The in-between. A gift passed down from her grandmother like an heirloom no one wanted to talk about. She kept her voice steady. Panic made spirits unpredictable. "What's the last thing you remember?" she asked. The girl frowned, thinking. "We were driving back from summer camp." Cal crouched, grounding herself, offering a gentle smile. "And your name?" The girl hesitated. "Juliet." Then she froze. Her form blurred and vanished, reappearing 4 doors down. Cal exhaled slowly and followed. "It's here," Juliet said, pointing. Inside the room, a little boy lay asleep, wires and tubes threading him to machines that breathed for him. Juliet stared, then shook her head. "It feels like my body," she whispered, confused. "But it's not." Cal checked the monitor, memorized the vitals, and stepped back into the hall just as Juliet drifted into another room. "This must be it," Juliet insisted. It wasn't. A young man. Early 20s. Scar fresh along his chest. Juliet's agitation grew. Her edges flickered. "Juliet," Cal said softly. "That's a beautiful name." Juliet stopped. A crooked smile tugged at her mouth. "Mama said Mima wanted me to have her name." She stared into nothing, clarity brushing past her like a missed heartbeat. Then she moved again. For more rooms. At the last, she stood beside a teenage girl her own age. Alive. Breathing. Not her. "I'm so close," Juliet said, rubbing her neck. "But it keeps moving." She leaned in, squinting at Cal's badge. "Dr. C. Brunston." "What's your name?" "Calliope." Juliet nodded slowly. Abe K. talked about someone with that name, but she vanished mid-thought. Cal stood alone in the hallway, heart pounding. What were you about to say, Juliet? Chapter 2. Looking for signs. The alarm screamed beside the bed. Calliope silenced it without opening her eyes. She had crawled home after 8, still in scrubs, and collapsed like a body released from tension. Sleep had come in fragments. She stared at the ceiling. 11 a.m. 2.5 hours. A nap masquerading as rest. Hot water steamed her skin awake. Texas winter played its tricks, mild sunlight hiding sharp cold beneath it. She pulled on an old college hoodie, sweatpants, and bullied her coffee machine into cooperation. Juliet lingered in her thoughts like static. Calliope opened her phone and searched accident reports. Narrowed by location, by timeline, by age. Summer camp. She remembered the small book Juliet had clutched. An emblem. A school. The search refined itself. 2 accidents surfaced. One from the 90s. One from 2 months ago. The article loaded. A yearbook photo appeared. Juliet Navajo. The room tilted. How many people in El Paso with that surname? She searched again and felt her fingers starting to tremble. Oh, sweet Jesus, first dead ghosts and then real-life ghost. Calliope's breath caught, memory surging like a riptide she'd never learned to swim against. 10 years ago. A medical conference. Long nights. Shared ORs. Coffee and quiet laughter between surgeries. Abe K. Mahali Navajo. Attending physician. Shy. Brilliant. Steady hands. Not love at first sight. Something slower. Deeper. A slow-burning, intense connection that both could not deny. Until one day she was gone. No goodbye. No explanation. 3 years and then nothing. Calliope gripped the counter as memory burned through her. The way Mahali touched her like reverence. The taste of matcha on her lips. The way Mahalet tilted her head like Cal hung the moon. Chapter 3. Help is not necessary. Las Palmas Medical Center hummed with morning life. Calliope walked its corridors with purpose, muttering under her breath. You're chasing a ghost. Juliet stood at the end of the ICU. I'm in there, she said. Inside the room lay a young woman, chest rising steadily. I hear my heart, Juliet whispered. But that's not my face. Understanding struck. Calliope checked the chart. Heart transplant. All the rooms. All the pauses. She stepped to the nurse's station. Is the donor body still in the hospital? The nurse hesitated, then checked the system. Kidneys are being removed. 5th floor. The elevator climbed in silence. Juliet vanished as the doors opened. The 5th floor was hushed. And then Calliope saw her. Abe K. Mahali Navajo. Thinner. Still beautiful. Gray slacks. White cashmere. Time held its breath. Mahali turned. Their eyes met. And nothing moved. Chapter 4. The Ones That Stay. The moment stretched, thin as glass. Calliope felt it first in her hands. The tremor. The betrayal of muscle and bone remembering what the mind tried to keep buried. Abe K. Mahali Navajo stood less than 10 feet away, fingers curled around a patient file, posture composed with the quiet discipline of someone who lived inside crisis. Stillness was not calm. Mahali's eyes lifted and found Calliope's face. No politeness. No pretense. Just recognition, raw and unarmored. Cal, she said softly. 1 syllable. A door opening where walls had been built. You left, Calliope replied. Her voice held, even as something cracked beneath it. Mahali inclined her head once. Not denial. Not apology. I did. That's all you have? For now. They stood there, 2 surgeons trained to keep blood inside bodies, suddenly drowning in what they'd never stitched closed. Calliope gestured down the corridor. We need to talk. Mahali glanced toward the nurse's station, then back. I'm on the transplant team. So am I, Calliope said quietly. Just not officially. Something flickered across Mahali's face. Unknowing. They stepped into an empty consultation room. The door closed with a soft, final click. Mahali leaned against the counter, arms folding across her chest. I didn't expect to see you like this. Neither did your sister. The words landed like a controlled strike. Mahali froze. Juliet Calliope continued, carefully now. She's here. She doesn't understand why she can feel herself everywhere and nowhere at once. Mahali's breath stuttered. She closed her eyes, pressed her thumb against her ring finger like a prayer she hadn't meant to say out loud. She was in a car accident, Mahali said. 2 months ago. Coming back from camp. She held on for a while. Long enough for us to hope. Hope. The most dangerous organ of all. When the doctors said brain death, Mahali continued, voice steady by force alone, my family chose donation. Juliet believed in helping people. She always did. She still is, Calliope said. Her heart. Her lungs. Pieces of her are alive. Mahali opened her eyes. They were wet but unbroken. You can see her. It wasn't a question. Calliope nodded. Yes. Silence settled between them, dense with years. That's why I left, AK said finally. Calliope's jaw tightened. Because of ghosts? Because of roots, AK corrected. Because loving you meant standing in 2 worlds my people are still learning how to reconcile. Calliope said nothing. My tribe is changing, Mahali went on. But not fast. And I was already carrying things you didn't ask to hold. You didn't give me the choice. Mahali's gaze softened. I know. The air shifted. Juliet stood near the door now, clearer than before, eyes fixed on Mahali. Her presence bent the room, like gravity remembered. Ma, she whispered, the name soft and unfinished, a sound shaped by memory more than language. Mahali inhaled sharply, hand pressing to her chest. Calliope watched the living and the dead hover on the same fragile line. She understood then that Juliet wasn't lost. She was divided. And Calliope Brunston stood exactly where both worlds would demand something from her. Chapter 5. What the Dead Carry. The room felt crowded, though only 2 living bodies occupied it. Calliope closed the door gently. She did not look at Juliet near the window. Mahali, Cal said, I need you to tell me what your people believe happens after death. That's not a casual question, Mahali replied. I know, Cal said. That's why I'm asking you. Mahali studied her, weighing truth against protection. Then she exhaled. We believe the spirit doesn't leave all at once, she said. Not when death is sudden. Not when the body is disturbed. Spirits linger, especially if unfinished. Especially if pieces are taken before the spirit understands its time. Juliet shifted. She's following her organs, Calliope said. Mahali's hand moved to her chest. Something's here. I don't see it, but it presses like wind in a doorway. Calliope's voice softened. That's her. If Juliet's spirit is divided, Calliope continued, she needs direction, permission. She needs to know what's happening to her body. You have to tell her, Mahali said. I don't know your rights. You don't need to. Walk with her until she's whole enough to choose. Juliet looked between them. I don't have to hurry? Calliope turned to her. No, but you do have to listen. Juliet nodded. Outside, a monitor beeped steadily. Somewhere below, a transplanted heart learned a new rhythm. For the first time since she died, Juliet felt she was no longer drifting alone. Chapter 6. Guiding the Fragments. Calliope led Juliet down the quiet corridor of the 5th floor, her steps measured, slow, almost ceremonial. The girl drifted beside her, invisible yet palpable, the air around her humming with a subtle unease. Juliet, Calliope said softly, you don't have to panic. I'm here, and Mahali is here, too. You just need to listen, not run. Juliet tilted her head, the faintest crease of worry in her brow. I keep moving. I can feel myself in all these people. their hearts, their breaths. It's confusing. I don't know where I am. Calliope stopped at a quiet corner, placing her hand over the girl's intangible shoulder. That's because your spirit is spread. Your organs are in others. But yourself isn't gone. Not entirely. You just need to gather your pieces. Juliet looked at her, eyes wide, fragile, but trusting. How do I gather myself? Calliope glanced toward the nurse's station. Mahaly was there, standing still, hands lightly clasped in front of her. She did not see Juliet, but she could feel the energy pressing against her chest, the presence of her sister, scattered and raw. Watch her, Calliope remembered what Mahaly had said. Feel her, don't try to see her. She'll tell you when she's ready. Mahaly inhaled, chest rising slowly. She sensed the fragments of Juliet, the pull of unfinished life. Her Apache teachings whispered through her, lessons from elders about the spirit, about the pieces that linger when life ends too soon. Juliet's voice trembled. I'm scared. What if I never feel whole again? Calliope knelt, lowering herself to the level of the drifting girl. You will. You just need guidance. Mahaly knows the path. She feels you. She will help anchor you. Mahaly closed her eyes, letting the energy of her sister pass through her, brush against her like a cold wind that carried warmth beneath it. Her lips moved silently, a whispered prayer to the spirits that had taught her this delicate art. Juliet stepped closer to the bed of the teenage girl, one of the organ recipients. She reached, as if to touch, but her hand passed through. Her gaze lingered, tentative, then shifted to a small heart monitor. She felt the rhythm. Her own heart. Somewhere inside. Calliope guided her, hand hovering over Juliet's incorporeal form. Name the feeling, she said. You don't have to see it yet. Just feel it. Say it. Juliet inhaled, whispered, I am here. Mahaly felt it, a pulse, a flicker across her chest. She opened her eyes and nodded ever so slightly. Yes. The acknowledgement had begun. Good, Calliope said, voice steady, firm, yet gentle. Now you have to feel the rest of yourself in them. One piece at a time. You don't take it. You don't steal it. You just acknowledge it. Your heart, your lungs, your hands, they carry you. And you carry them. Juliet floated, tilting, drifting toward another room. The fragments stirred. Calliope followed, softly whispering guidance. Mahaly's presence was quiet, grounding. She could not see Juliet, but she could sense the tug of her sister's spirit, could feel the little pieces of life that refused to settle. Juliet, Calliope said again, you are not alone. Not for 1 second. We're walking with you. One breath, one heartbeat at a time. Juliet closed her eyes, or at least her essence did, and the corridor seemed to quiet around them. The hospital noises faded into a steady, internal rhythm, the beat of life, scattered but present. Mahaly whispered another prayer, guiding, holding, even though Juliet could not hear her words. And for the first time, Juliet paused, feeling a tether, a line connecting her, Calliope, and Mahaly, a line made of love, memory, and belonging. The fragments of her spirit quivered, ready to respond. And Calliope, watching her, felt a surge of hope, delicate, electric, and utterly unstoppable. Chapter 7. When Pieces Remember. The hum of the hospital's floors felt different now. Cal moved carefully, hand hovering just above Juliet's drifting form. Each step was measured, deliberate. They're ready, Calliope whispered. Juliet floated closer to the bed of a young man, early 20s, one of the organ recipients. Her presence wavered, fragile and uncertain. Then it happened. A sudden flash of memory, someone brushing back hair, a laugh from a summer night, the soft warmth of a hand clasping hers. The young man jerked slightly, eyes widening. Calliope felt it immediately. The memories weren't his, but he reacted as if they were. Juliet, Calliope murmured. Stay calm. Let it flow slowly. Don't overwhelm. The boy's heart monitor spiked slightly. Nurses glanced, concerned, but saw nothing out of the ordinary. Only Calliope and Juliet felt the collision of lives, the ghost brushing against a fragment of herself in a living body. Juliet's form shivered. I remember this, she whispered, voice soft, broken. This is me. Calliope reached toward her, steadying her presence. Yes, but breathe. You can't pull it all at once. One piece at a time. From across the room, Mahaly felt it, an electric tingle running down her spine. Her sister was touching life without being seen. She closed her eyes, letting her cultural instincts guide her. Slowly, she whispered a prayer in the old tongue, grounding Juliet's spirit, holding her fragments together. The young man sat up, confused. I don't know why I feel that. Sadness, happiness, love. His eyes widened. Calliope gently rested her hand on his arm. It's okay. That's not you entirely. It's someone who gave you life. Let it pass. Don't fight it. Juliet's essence flickered, unsure, but anchored by Calliope's calm and Mahaly's silent strength. Slowly, the memory settled, lingering like faint echoes rather than overwhelming torrents. Every piece of you, Calliope said softly, is in them now. You can acknowledge it without taking it. You can feel it without losing yourself. Juliet hovered above the boy for a long moment, then floated back toward Calliope. It's too much. But I understand now. I can feel them all. I'm not lost, just scattered. Abke exhaled, tension leaving her in one long breath. Though she could not see Juliet, she felt the sister she thought lost so long ago beginning to gather herself, guided by the living. Keep walking with her, Mahaly said to Calliope. Don't rush. Let her learn patience, even if she doesn't know what patience is. Calliope nodded. We'll do this together, Juliet. One heartbeat at a time. Juliet's eyes, or what passed for eyes in her spectral form, met Calliope's. A spark of understanding passed between them. She was beginning to remember herself through the living, to anchor fragments without fear. And somewhere deep in the hospital, a transplanted heart beat steadily, unknowingly teaching its original owner how to find herself again. Chapter 8: Fragments and Laughter. The hospital's floors felt alive now, not just with monitors and beeping machines, but with something subtler, wilder. Juliet floated through the corridors, her form shimmering, almost playful. Calliope followed closely, hand hovering, ready to guide. She's different today, Mahaly murmured, standing by the nurse's station. Though she could not see Juliet, the pull of her sister's spirit pressed against her chest, insistent and bright. Calliope nodded. She's learning the rhythm. But it's unpredictable. Watch for reactions in the recipients. Their next stop was a young woman in her late teens. She had received Juliet's liver. As Juliet's fragment brushed against her consciousness, the girl suddenly laughed, a high, startled giggle. Did anyone else hear a tiny voice say, "Hey, watch it"? The girl asked, looking around the room. Calliope's lips twitched. You did. That's your donor, sort of. Don't worry, you're not losing it. The girl laughed again, shaking her head. No, I think I'm gaining it. I just sneezed, and it felt like a tiny hand flicked me. Juliet hovered nearby, giggling silently, a sound like wind through chimes. Her fragments were starting to react not just emotionally, but playfully, teasing the living bodies that carried pieces of her. Mahaly's chest tightened, a mix of worry and amusement. She's learning mischief, she whispered. Next was the young man, early 20s, who had Juliet's heart. He yawned loudly. I just felt like I did cartwheels in my sleep, or maybe danced. Not sure. I'm too tired to tell. Juliet's fragment shimmered, a faint smile forming in her ethereal presence. She reached out, almost nudging him, and the young man snorted. Okay, seriously, am I haunted by the most polite ghost ever? Calliope crouched to Juliet's level. You're fine, Juliet. Laugh. Let it happen. You can bring pieces of yourself through without hurting anyone. See? Juliet's form flickered, then emitted a faint, musical giggle that seemed to ripple through the hallways. The recipients, feeling her presence, laughed too, soft, surprised, uncontrollable bursts. One woman, holding her stomach, looked up at the ceiling. I swear, that was the weirdest tickle I've ever felt. Mahaly, watching from a distance, allowed herself a small smile. Perhaps spirits have a sense of humor after all. Calliope's eyes twinkled. Juliet's finding her way, not just through memory and pain, but through joy. She can touch the living lightly, teach them her presence without fear. Even laughter counts as healing. Juliet floated past the young man's bed, leaning in as if to whisper something only he could sense. He looked down at his hands, grinning. She's trying to tell me something. I don't know what, but it feels like a joke. And I like it. Calliope placed a hand lightly on Mahaly's shoulder. This is good. She's anchoring herself through playfulness. That's progress. Mahaly exhaled, her worry easing just a little. She could not see her sister, could not hear her words, but she could feel Juliet starting to guide herself, learning that fragments could exist in harmony with the living. And for the first time since her accident, Juliet seemed at peace, mischievous, and alive again in a way that only spirits can be. Chapter 9. Crossing Over. Juliet hovered by the final recipient, her ethereal form shimmering softly, golden light mingling with the quiet beeps of the hospital monitors. Calliope and Abe K stood on either side, anchoring her, giving her the courage to release what she had held too tightly for too long. I can feel it, Juliet whispered, voice trembling with both awe and relief. I am whole, through them, through life I saved. But I am ready. Abek's hand tightened on Calliope's shoulder. Though she could not see her sister in the traditional sense, she felt every pulse, every flicker of presence. Juliet, she breathed, tears slipping down, you've done more than you could ever know. You can rest now. Truly rest. Calliope knelt beside her, eyes glimmering. You've anchored your pieces. You've given life, laughter, love, and joy. It's enough, Juliet. More than enough. You don't need to stay. Juliet's ghostly eyes flickered between the two women, taking in the faces of those she had loved in life and spirit. She raised a hand, a gentle wave that brushed the air, almost touching Mahaly's cheek. I love you. Always. But it's time. Time to go. Mahaly exhaled slowly, letting herself feel the mixture of sorrow and relief. Go, my sister. Go with the ancestors, with peace. You've earned this. Calliope whispered, her voice steady but tender. We'll remember you. Always. Juliet's form pulsed one final time, a golden warmth radiating outward, filling the room with a quiet serenity. Then, like morning mist evaporating in sunlight, she drifted upward and beyond, crossing over into the rest she had longed for. The monitors beeped normally again. The hospital corridor was quiet. The recipients went on with their lives, none the wiser to the miraculous guidance they had just felt. Mahaly and Calliope stood together, hands clasped, the weight of grief and love entwined. Silence stretched between them, heavy yet comforting, the kind that only comes after letting go of someone you can never forget. She's really gone, Mahaly whispered, a faint smile touching her lips. Yes, Calliope said softly. And she's at peace. We can honor that, and we can finally live too. The air shifted around them, light, full of possibility. The story of Juliet had ended. Chapter 10. Shadows Between Us. Calliope watched Mahaly gather the simple bundle that held her sister, Juliet, ready to carry her back to the ancestral ground. The hospital hallway felt too narrow, too bright, too quiet, like it was holding its breath for them. "You're really going," Calliope said, voice tight. "Anne, I don't know if I'll ever see you again after this." Mahaly didn't look back. Her steps were measured, careful. "Calliope, you'll see me again. I always come back. But this is what I have to do for Juliet. She belongs with the ancestors now, with our people. I won't dishonor that." Calliope rose from the chair, her hands curling at her sides. "It's not just that. Mahaly, 5 years, you left. No word. No goodbye. Nothing. You disappeared from my life, and her voice caught. I never understood why. I thought you didn't care." Mahaly paused, finally turning, and for a moment, her usual calm veneer cracked. Her eyes darkened with shadows of regret, fear, and some unspoken weight. "I had to leave, Cal. I couldn't face what I was feeling. Our traditions, my people, they don't look kindly on us. On what I was feeling for you. And I was afraid. I thought if I stayed, I'd ruin everything, even for Juliet. I didn't know how to be the person you deserved." Calliope's chest tightened, the ache of 5 years washing over her in a tidal wave. "So you left me. No word. Just vanished. You think that was protecting anyone?" Mahaly's gaze softened, and she stepped closer, voice almost a whisper. "I thought it was the only way I could protect both of us. And myself. I was young, afraid, broken in ways I didn't know how to explain. I never wanted you to hate me." Calliope swallowed hard, fury and longing tangling in her chest. "Hate you? No. I wanted the truth. I wanted you to fight for me, Mahaly. Not vanish like a ghost in the night." Mahaly exhaled, a shaky, human sound. "I know. And I am sorry. I should have fought. I should have." Calliope stepped forward, stopping her. "I can't go back, Mahaly. I can't pretend 5 years didn't happen. But I need to know something. That you're here now. That you didn't leave me entirely." Mahaly's eyes glistened with emotion. "I didn't. Not ever. And I won't. Calliope, I'm here. I've always been here in the ways I could. And I want to make it right. I want us." Calliope's hands hovered, unsure, trembling. 5 years of unanswered questions, of absence, of longing, it all hung in the air, heavy and electric. "Then, you have to show me. Show me why I should trust you again." Mahaly nodded, slowly, deliberately. "I will. I swear. But first, Juliet. She needs me to do this. She needs to rest with the ancestors. And after that, we face everything else together." Calliope took a deep breath, the ache and fear in her chest softening just a fraction. "Then go. Make sure she's where she belongs. But, Mahaly, come back to me. Please." Mahaly's lips curved faintly, a mix of relief and sorrow. "I will. I promise." And with that, she moved down the corridor, carrying Juliet toward the ancestral ground, leaving Calliope in the sterile hospital light, but no longer alone in her fear, no longer in the dark about the truth. The past 5 years had finally been acknowledged, and now the future could begin. Chapter 11. Waiting for Peace. Calliope stayed in the hospital lounge, hands folded in her lap, mind racing with images of Juliet, shimmering light, and Mahaly's steady presence as she prepared to carry her sister home. The corridor outside was quiet, almost reverent, as if the building itself held its breath. She knew, deep down, every fiber of her being, that Juliet's spirit could only find rest if Mahaly took her to the ancestral ground. It was a truth written in their family, in their culture, in the way life and death were intertwined. Calliope exhaled slowly, trying to steady the tension coiling in her chest. She wanted to move, to follow, to ensure nothing went wrong, but she trusted Mahali, even after 5 years of absence, even after the fear and unanswered questions. Minutes stretched into hours. Calliope watched the hands of the clock crawl forward, the fluorescent light casting long shadows across the floor. She imagined Mahali walking through the forests of their homeland, the scent of sage and cedar brushing against her senses, carrying Juliet with reverence, speaking the prayers that only she could speak. Her mind drifted to Juliet's voice, the gentle farewell, the warmth of her energy. I am ready. I am whole, through them. Calliope closed her eyes, holding on to that memory. Please, Mahali, bring her peace. Bring her home, she whispered into the quiet room, a prayer she hoped could cross the miles and the veil between worlds. Outside, the winter sun dipped low, painting the city in gold and gray. Calliope imagined the ancestral ground, Juliet laid to rest among the stones of her people, the earth embracing her, the wind carrying her spirit into eternity. And in the stillness, Calliope felt something shift, not in the hospital, not in the air, but in her chest. A fragile hope, like a seed, taking root. She could not see Mahali, could not guide her steps, could only wait. But she waited willingly, knowing that this act, this journey, was the last gift they could give Juliet together. She leaned back in her chair, heart tight, and whispered again, "Come back to me, Mahali. Come back, and let us face everything else." The hours ticked on, but Calliope did not move. She would wait. She would hope. Because some things, some acts of love, some crossings of the soul, could not be rushed. They had to be honored, and she would honor Juliet's last journey, trusting Mahali to carry it through. Chapter 12. Work as Refuge. Calliope remained in her apartment long after Mahali left the hospital, the quiet punctuated only by the distant hum of the city. She had watched Mahali carry Juliet's presence out into the world, back to the ancestral ground, and she had felt the impossible mixture of relief and emptiness settle deep in her chest. She had learned long ago how to survive in the absence of those she loved. 5 years of Mahali's disappearance had taught her the rhythm of waiting, the work, the endless tasks, the small victories, and the quiet resilience it took to keep moving. And now, with Juliet finally at peace, she returned to that refuge once more. The hospital became her sanctuary. Patients, charts, procedures, everything that demanded her focus became a shield against the hollow ache of longing. She moved through the corridors with precision, her hands steady, her heart careful not to tilt too far into memory or fear. But even in the rhythm of routine, Juliet lingered. Not in the hospital halls, not in the patients, but in the quiet moments, the memories of light and laughter, the reminder of why Mahali had come back at all. Calliope whispered her own private farewell. Rest well, Juliet. You're free. Anne, Mahali will come back. I will wait. Her voice was soft, almost swallowed by the white walls and the low hum of monitors. But it carried her promise. Calliope had learned to endure absence before. She could endure this too. And so, she buried herself in work, in saving lives, in every pulse and breath that mattered. Each patient, each procedure, became a testament to Juliet's sacrifice, a reminder that life moved forward even in the presence of loss. Outside, the world continued, indifferent and bright. And somewhere, Mahali carried Juliet home, honoring what Calliope could not. Inside, Calliope exhaled, allowing herself to live in the tension of hope and waiting. For now, she would stay, she would work, and she would trust that Mahali would return, and when she did, they would face 5 years of shadows together, with hearts open and no more ghosts between them. Chapter 13. The Rhythm of the Heart. The ore lights burned bright, white and unflinching, casting sharp reflections across polished steel instruments. Calliope adjusted her mask, slipped on her gloves, and let the familiar rhythm of the operating room take over. Here, she was not waiting. Here, she was not longing. Here, she was Cal, precise, unflinching, alive. "Scalpel," she said, voice calm, authoritative. Hands steady as she guided the first incision. Her team responded instantly, every movement synchronized, a silent choreography honed over years of adrenaline, sweat, and meticulous care. The patient, a 40-year-old man with a blocked coronary artery, lay under anesthesia, unaware of the life-or-death ballet unfolding above him. Calliope's eyes darted over the monitors, heart rate stable, blood pressure controlled, oxygen saturation perfect. "Clamp on the left atrial appendage," she instructed. A soft click echoed as the instrument locked into place. Her mind was sharp, focused, singular. No ghosts. No longing. Only anatomy, rhythm, and precision. She felt the pulse of life beneath her fingers, the steady thrum of a heart she was about to mend. And in that pulse, she found a strange solace, a quiet homage to Juliet. Each beat she saved, each valve she repaired, became a silent acknowledgement that life continued, that sacrifice mattered, that love endured even when separated by absence. 10-2 suturing, she said, voice clipped but calm. Sweat trickled down her temple, but she ignored it. The room was a cathedral of skill, concentration, and care, and she was its priestess. Minutes stretched, tense but controlled. A minor complication arose, a vein slightly misaligned, bleeding faster than expected. Calliope's hands moved instinctively, correcting, adapting, never panicking. Her team followed without hesitation. "Good. That's stable," she said finally, standing back, wiping her brow under the mask. "We're done. Excellent work, everyone." As the team began the routine of closure and cleanup, she stepped out into the sterile hallway, mask still in place, gloves still clinging to her hands. The hospital was alive with movement, but the noise was background. Her mind was already cataloging the next patient, the next procedure, the next heartbeat to save. And yet, even in the rhythm, the efficiency, the flow of life and death in her hands, a small, private part of her waited, listened. For Mahaly. For the moment she would return. For the questions left unanswered. For the years of silence that demanded attention. For now, Calliope buried herself in work, in precision, in saving lives, and she let the world continue without her holding it too tightly. She was surgeon, healer, protector, and she would wait, as she had always waited, for Mahaly to come back into her life. Chapter 14. Messages Across Distance. The ping of Calliope's phone echoed faintly in the empty lounge. She glanced down, already guessing who it might be. Mahaly. "Cal. I'm not quite ready yet. Preparing. Soon." Calliope's fingers hovered over the screen. Her chest tightened, not anger, not relief, just tension, a coil of hope and fear. She typed nothing, stared at the message a long moment, and then slipped the phone back into her pocket. She couldn't afford distraction. Not now. Not yet. The operating room called, and she answered without hesitation. Heartbeats, scalpel, sutures, the familiar rhythm took over, pulling her from the ache of longing. Hours blurred into one another. Patient after patient, incision after incision, she worked like a woman possessed, each procedure a heartbeat against the slow pulse of her desire to hear more from Mahaly. The ping came again later. "It's closer. I need a little more time. Just wait for me, Cal. Focus." Calliope exhaled, leaning back against the sterile counter in the OR lounge. Focus. She had learned that long ago. Survive, endure, continue. Mahaly had left once. She wouldn't let herself be left again, Not by anticipation, not by longing. She pushed her fear into the background, channeling it into every stitch, every suture, every precise movement of her hands. The hospital lights flickered overhead, the machines hummed their constant rhythm, and Calliope buried herself deeper, night after night, as messages trickled slowly, a lifeline across distance and hesitation. She didn't ask questions. She didn't press. She didn't respond beyond acknowledgement. It was enough to know Mahali was thinking of her, preparing, inching closer in ways only Mahali could. And so, she worked. Hours in the OR, time in the ICU, consultations, rounds, surgeries that lasted until her muscles ached, her throat was raw, her mind sharp to the point of exhaustion. Every life she saved became a silent promise, to herself, to Juliet, to Mahali, that she could endure. That she could wait. That she could face the return of the woman who had haunted her heart for 5 long years. Mahali placed a finger gently on her lips, silencing the pent-up storm. "I know," she said, voice heavy with the weight of memory and regret. "I had to leave. I had to fight my own fears, my own family, my own traditions. But I never stopped thinking of you. Never. And now, I'm here. For you." Calliope's chest tightened, tears threatening to spill, but she held herself steady against the pull of emotion. "I've waited. I've worked. I've survived, and you're here," she whispered. "I don't know if I can believe it yet." Mahali smiled softly, brushing her hand along Calliope's cheek. "Then believe it slowly. I'll give you all the time you need. But I am here, Cal. Here to stay. For as long as you'll let me." The room was quiet again, save for the soft, steady rhythm of Calliope's heart returning to its natural pace. Sleep and fear, longing and relief, all tangled together in a fragile, beautiful knot. And for the first time in years, Calliope allowed herself to believe that some things, some people, could come back from absence, could return from the shadows, could finally stay. Chapter 16. Words Between Heartbeats. Calliope's hands rested on the thin hospital blanket, still trembling slightly. Mahali sat on the edge of the cot, close enough to feel the warmth of her skin, far enough to respect the fragile barrier of exhaustion and emotion. I don't know where to start," Calliope whispered, voice rough from disuse, from holding back everything for years. 5 years, Mahali, 5 years of questions, nights spent wondering, why? Mahali's hand lifted slowly, brushing against Calliope's. "I know," she said softly, letting each word hang between them. "I can't take back leaving. I can't. But I can explain. I have to. I didn't leave because I stopped caring. I left because I was scared. Scared of losing you before I even had the chance to fight for us." Calliope's chest ached with every word. Her eyes, still wide from exhaustion and emotion, searched Mahali's face for honesty. "Fight? Mahali, you just vanished. No word, no note, nothing. Do you have any idea what that did to me?" "I do now," Mahali said, voice trembling just enough to reveal the raw edge beneath her usual calm. "And I hate myself for it. Every day. I thought disappearing would protect us both. Protect you from my family, my tribe, from me. From the fears I couldn't control. But all it did was hurt you. Hurt me. Hurt everything that could have been." Calliope swallowed, eyes prickling with tears she refused to shed. "I worked, Mahali. I buried myself in work to survive the absence you left behind. To survive not knowing if you'd ever come back. And now, here you are. I don't even know where to put this feeling." Mahali leaned closer, voice almost a whisper, full of reverence and longing. "Then put it here," she said, pressing her hand over Calliope's heart. "Right here. Let me be where I belong. Let me make it right. I'm not going anywhere this time." Calliope's hands curled around Mahali's, gripping tightly, as if holding her would anchor the years of hurt, longing, and unanswered questions. "I've wanted this, you, For so long, she admitted, voice cracking. I've been afraid you'd vanish again, that I'd lose you to silence, to tradition, to everything that kept you away before. Mahali's thumb brushed over the back of Calliope's hand, slow, deliberate. Then don't be afraid. I'm here. I stayed away to protect us, Cal. But I've returned to stay. To fight. To love you, without compromise, without hiding. Calliope exhaled, leaning slightly into the warmth of Mahali's presence. Anne. Juliet. Mahali nodded, voice soft, carrying the weight of both sorrow and peace. She's home. She's at peace now with the ancestors. And, because of her, we have a chance. We get this moment. We get each other. And I'm not letting it go again. Calliope's chest tightened with a mixture of relief, grief, and longing. Then, let's take it slow, she whispered. Step by step. Because after 5 years, I don't want to lose you again. Mahali's lips curved into a faint, tender smile. Step by step. Together. And in the quiet hospital quarters, under the sterile light and the faint hum of distant machines, they let the silence speak as loudly as words could. The years apart still lingered, but for the first time in 5 years, the distance between them began to dissolve. Chapter 17. Heartbeats in the Dark. Calliope felt the soft weight of Mahali beside her before she fully registered it. A quiet shift of movement, a brush of warmth against her arm, and suddenly the distance of years collapsed into the gentle presence of the woman she had longed for. Mahali lay down slowly, careful not to startle her, and nestled close. Their sides touched, and Calliope could feel the steady rhythm of Mahali's heartbeat, slow and measured, sinking in subtle harmony with her own ragged pulse. For a long moment, neither spoke. The silence was not empty, it was full, heavy with years of absence, sorrow, longing, and the fragile hope of reunion. Calliope's hand found Mahali's, fingers intertwining naturally. I forgot what it felt like, she whispered. To have you here. To feel you like this. Mahali turned her head slightly, resting it near Calliope's shoulder. 5 years. I've wanted this every day, she murmured. I've imagined this moment, your warmth, your heartbeat, the rhythm that always steadied me. And now, I'm here. I don't plan on leaving again. Calliope closed her eyes, letting the exhaustion and emotion mingle. I had to survive, had to keep moving. I didn't know if I'd ever see you again. I know, Mahali said softly, thumb brushing along Calliope's knuckles. And I hate that you had to. I never wanted to hurt you, Cal. I wasn't ready. Not then. I needed to. I needed to find my courage to face everything I left behind. And now I can face it, all of it, with you. Calliope turned slightly to meet her eyes, searching them for the truth she'd been craving for half a decade. All of it, really? After everything, my fear, your family, the distance, I can believe that. Mahali's lips curved into a small, honest smile. You have to. I'm not leaving again. Not until you don't want me to. Not until you tell me to go. Calliope let out a shaky laugh, soft and quiet. After 5 years, you finally admit you were scared? Mahali chuckled, a low, warm sound that vibrated through Calliope's side. Yes, scared out of my mind. But it doesn't matter now. We're here. Together. For the first time in years, Calliope allowed herself to relax fully into Mahali's presence, letting the tension she had carried for so long melt into the warmth beside her. They didn't need grand declarations or rushed confessions. Just the slow, tangible truth of being close again, of breathing the same air, feeling the same heartbeat. I missed this, Calliope whispered. I missed you. And I missed you, Mahali replied, her voice barely audible over the soft hum of the hospital. Every single day. But we have now. And that's enough for tonight. They lay together, side by side, the rhythm of two hearts speaking in silence, building a bridge across 5 years of absence. And for the first time, Calliope didn't fight it. She let herself feel, let herself hope, let herself believe that they could finally move forward together. Chapter 18, Gravity. They lay side by side, the quiet hum of the hospital wrapping around them like a protective cocoon. Words came slowly at first, tentative, careful, but full of the weight of years apart. "I never stopped feeling you," Calliope admitted, voice soft, almost shy against Mahali's shoulder. "Even when you were gone, your presence, your memory, it was everywhere. In in my apartment, in the rhythm of my life." Mahali's hand tightened slightly around hers. "I felt you too. Even when I was far away, afraid of my family, afraid of judgment, afraid of losing what I had with you. I carried you with me. Always." Calliope shifted slightly, turning her head to see Mahali's face in the dim light. "Your family, your traditions, they were part of the reason you left. I never wanted to be the cause of conflict for you." Mahali's thumb traced gentle circles over Calliope's hand. "And I never wanted to hurt you. I didn't know how to reconcile who I am with who I wanted to be with you. I feared I'd lose both." The words hung in the air, heavy, honest, vulnerable. And then something changed, a subtle, inexorable pull, like gravity finally asserting itself. They shifted closer, eyes locking, breaths mingling. The hesitation, the careful boundaries of years apart, melted away. Calliope's lips brushed Mahali's first, tentative, a whisper of a kiss. Mahali responded immediately, a soft sigh vibrating through both of them. Time slowed. The weight of absence, the ache of longing, the tension of unspoken words, all condensed into that one perfect, sealing moment. The kiss deepened, urgent but tender, a communion of heart and soul and flesh. 5 years of distance and fear, 5 years of waiting and surviving, finally found release in the soft press of lips, in the shared warmth, in the promise that neither would leave the other again. Pulling back slightly, just enough to breathe, Calliope whispered, I needed that." Mahali smiled, forehead resting against hers. "So did I. And now we start again." The world outside the hospital room could wait. For once, nothing mattered but the gravity that had pulled them together, the connection that had survived distance, fear, and silence. And in that moment, they let themselves feel it fully, ready for whatever came next. Chapter 20, After the Fire. Calliope's chest rose and fell against Mahali's, the rapid rhythm of desire slowly easing into a steady warmth. Their bodies still pressed together, but the urgency softened, leaving a gentle, exquisite weight, the comfort of being home in one another's arms after 5 long years. Mahali traced slow patterns along Calliope's back, fingers gliding over the taut muscles hardened by exhaustion, memorizing them again. "You've been pushing yourself too hard," she murmured. "Look at you, barely resting, yet still holding yourself like steel." Calliope let out a soft laugh, shaking her head against Mahali's shoulder. "I had to survive the wait. I had to bury myself in work. But now you're here. And I don't want to hide anything anymore." Mahali's lips brushed her temple, a soft, lingering kiss. "Then don't. Not from me. Not ever again." They lay together, skin on skin, breathing in each other's scent, each heartbeat a reassurance, each sigh a confession. Calliope finally let herself relax fully, letting the exhaustion and longing seep out, replaced with quiet wonder at the simple act of touch, closeness, presence. "Do you remember," Calliope whispered, her hand brushing Mahali's hair from her face, "how it felt the first time we really noticed each other? Before everything went sideways." Mahali smiled, a faint, wistful curve of her lips. "I remember. You were so focused, so precise, and I thought, maybe she could see me, really see me, in a way no one else could. And I was terrified, but curious. And now? After all this, Calliope laughed, soft and warm, letting the sound fill the quiet room. Now, I can't imagine a day without you in it. Not a single one. Mahali's hand cupped Calliope's cheek, thumb brushing tenderly. We have time now, she whispered. Time to laugh, to touch, to explore, to just be. No hiding, no running, no fear. Calliope tilted her head, resting her forehead against Mahali's. I want that. I want everything with you. Every laugh, every touch, every heartbeat. They drifted into the quiet intimacy of the room, talking in whispers, brushing fingertips over skin, holding each other close. Sometimes a laugh escaped soft, playful, a reminder that, even in the wake of sorrow and absence, life could still sparkle. Other times, silence spoke louder than words, as they simply existed together, reacquainted, reclaimed, and at peace. Calliope finally closed her eyes, listening to Mahali's heartbeat beneath her palm, feeling the steady warmth of her presence, and let herself surrender, not to lust alone, but to trust, to love, to the slow, steady reconnection of everything she had missed for 5 years. And Mahali, pressed close, whispered against her hair, "You're home, Cal. You've always been home." The night stretched quietly around them, the world outside fading into irrelevance. For the first time in years, they were simply together, two hearts, two bodies, two souls rediscovered, and nothing could pull them apart again. Chapter 21. What Comes After. Morning crept in softly, pale light slipping through the narrow window of the on-call quarters. Calliope lay awake before Mahali stirred, watching the slow rise and fall of her chest, the way sleep softened the sharp edges the world had carved into her. Mahali was back. Not visiting. Not passing through. Back. That thought alone felt dangerous and delicious. Mahali shifted, eyes blinking open, immediately finding Calliope's face like muscle memory hadn't missed a beat. "You're staring," she murmured, voice low and warm. "I waited 5 years," Calliope replied. "I think I've earned a few minutes." Mahali smiled, then sobered, fingers tracing idle patterns against Calliope's arm. "I should talk to you. About what happens now." There it was. The fragile bridge between then and next. Calliope exhaled slowly. "Good. Because I was going to say the same thing before I chickened out and buried myself in another 12-hour surgery." Mahali huffed a quiet laugh. "Still running. Still surviving," Calliope corrected gently. Silence settled, not awkward, just heavy with meaning. "I'm not leaving again," Mahali said finally. No drama. No grand vow. Just truth, placed carefully between them. "I don't know exactly what shape my life takes yet, but I know it's here. With you." Calliope turned fully toward her. "Are you thinking of applying here?" Mahali hesitated. "I am. Cardiology's opening a senior attending position next quarter." Calliope winced theatrically. "You do realize if you work here, we're going to have a problem." Mahali raised an eyebrow. "Please tell me it's not about parking. I refuse to fight you for a spot." "No," Calliope said solemnly. "Hospital policy. Doctors dating. Conflict of interest. Committees. Paperwork. Gossip." Mahali squinted. "So, what you're saying is..." Calliope grinned. "We'd have to get married." The silence that followed was sharp and electric. Mahali blinked once. "Excuse me?" Calliope shrugged, suddenly shy but unflinching. "I'm just saying. Very practical solution." Mahali studied her face, then slowly smiled. "Is that a proposal, Calliope Brunston?" Calliope didn't joke this time. Didn't deflect. Didn't run. She reached for Mahali's hand, threading their fingers together, grounding herself in the warmth. "We know each other. Fully. The good, the broken, the parts we tried to hide. What just happened between us isn't nostalgia or grief or adrenaline." She swallowed. "It's proof. We belong together. We always did." Mahali's breath caught. Her thumb brushed over Calliope's knuckles, reverent, steady. I left because I was afraid, she admitted softly. Of disappointing my family. Of choosing you and losing everything else. Juliet's accident showed me how fragile time really is. Her voice wavered, then steadied. I don't want a life that doesn't include you anymore. Calliope leaned in, resting her forehead against Mahali's. Good. Because I'm done surviving. I want to live. Mahali laughed quietly, emotion bright in her eyes. You know, this is the least conventional proposal I've ever heard. Calliope smiled. I'm a surgeon. I prefer clean cuts and honest outcomes. Mahali kissed her then, soft and certain. Then let's build something that lasts. Outside, the hospital woke with its usual chaos. Inside that small room, two women chose the future without flinching. Not because it was easy. Because it was true. Chapter 22. Decisions in the Light. The hospital corridors were buzzing with early morning activity, but Calliope moved through them with a calm she hadn't known she could possess. Mahali walked a step behind, adjusting her badge, scanning the environment like a predator in a jungle, calm, precise, and impossibly confident. So, Calliope said, leaning against the nurse's station, have you thought about the logistics? HR, paperwork, gossip, you know, all the fun stuff. Mahali smirked. I've thought about it. And I don't care about the gossip. As for HR, she pulled a folder from her bag. I've got the forms. References. Everything. I'm not walking in blind. Calliope laughed, a sound rich with relief. Good. Because I'm not covering for you if anyone tries to bite. They shared a small smile, the kind that only years of absence and rediscovered intimacy could create. Mahali slid her hand into Calliope's briefly, grounding them both. The next challenge came sooner than expected. Calliope's phone buzzed relentlessly during rounds. It was a text from Mahali, my family, they want to talk. Tonight. Calliope's stomach tightened. She knew the conversation would be delicate. Mahali's Apache roots meant family traditions ran deep, and their conservative expectations weren't easy to reconcile with Mahali's life, or with her love for Calliope. That evening, in Mahali's apartment, the conversation began. I'm proud of who you are, Mahali's mother said carefully. We feared for you. For your choices. And now, you bring someone from outside our traditions. Mahali took Calliope's hand under the table. Mom, this isn't a phase. This is my life. Cal isn't just someone from outside, she's my heart. She's the reason I survived the years I was gone. And I'm not apologizing for that. Calliope squeezed Mahali's hand, feeling the warmth of acceptance slowly spreading. Mahali's father cleared his throat. Then you must understand, we need time. We see you're happy. But happiness isn't the only measure. Calliope smiled softly. I understand. But I also hope that in time, you'll see what Mahali already knows. That this, us, isn't a threat. It's love. In the following weeks, life began to settle into a rhythm. Mahali's application at the hospital moved forward. The HR department, initially skeptical, approved her transfer with a warning about fraternization policies that now seemed almost quaint to Calliope. They laughed quietly about the marriage clause every morning over coffee, walking the hospital corridors side by side, occasionally teasing each other about patient charts and/or schedules. Surgery became their shared stage. They moved through complex procedures with a quiet, unspoken understanding, fingers brushing, hands guiding, hearts sinking in ways that only true intimacy allowed. At home, the quiet moments became sacred. A shared dinner, a late-night cup of coffee, soft touches while watching old shows, laughter over silly jokes. Life in the light was not perfect, not seamless, but it was theirs real, messy, and wholly alive. And every night, when Calliope slid into bed, Mahali beside her, She whispered a quiet thanks for Juliet, for patience, for the wild, improbable path that brought them home. Because real life wasn't perfect. But for the first time in years, it was theirs. Chapter 23. The Ceremony. The morning sun spilled gold across the ancestral grounds, rustling the tall grasses and the few scattered wildflowers Mahaly had remembered from childhood. Calliope stood beside Mahaly, hands intertwined, heart hammering, not from nerves, but from awe. Mahaly's parents approached, solemn at first, but softened by the warmth radiating between the two women. They carried the small ceremonial items, a bowl of water from the nearby spring, a bundle of sweetgrass, and a few simple feathers. Calliope, Mahaly's mother, began, voice firm but gentle, "You have come into our family in unusual circumstances. You cared for our Juliet when she was lost to us. That act alone shows a depth of heart and courage that earns respect in our tradition." Calliope inclined her head, heart swelling. "It was my honor. Juliet trusted me, and I was blessed to help guide her spirit to peace." Mahaly's father stepped forward, his hand resting briefly on Mahaly's shoulder. "And now you stand before us together. We have watched Mahaly's happiness grow, something that was missing for years. We see it as you who brings that light." Calliope felt Mahaly's fingers squeeze hers, grounding them both. "I will honor her, her family, and your traditions. Always," she whispered. The ceremonial circle was small, intimate. Mahaly's parents guided them through the binding, a ritual of water and sweetgrass, a soft chant in their Apache tongue, hands pressed together as a symbol of connection and protection. Calliope felt a deep, reverent energy fill the circle, the weight of history and ancestry grounding them. Mahaly mirrored her movements, eyes soft with emotion. When the final words were spoken and the sweetgrass burned away, a calm sense of permanence settled over them. Mahaly's parents smiled, eyes bright. "You are bound," Mahaly's mother said. "Not by law, not by convenience, but by respect, by courage, and by love. You may walk forward together." Calliope exhaled, a laugh of relief and joy escaping her lips. Mahaly leaned close, brushing a kiss across her temple. "I think they like you," Mahaly murmured, a teasing grin tugging at her lips. Calliope laughed, heart light. "I earned it by guiding Juliet. I guess that counts as a universal recommendation." The ceremony ended with quiet laughter, shared stories, and a lingering warmth. Calliope and Mahaly walked hand in hand across the ancestral ground, tied to each other not just by love, but by tradition, courage, and trust. Chapter 24. Life in Motion. The hospital corridors moved like a river, relentless, fast, unforgiving, but Calliope walked them with a calm she hadn't known before. Mahaly was at her side now, not a phantom memory, not a lost heart, but real, present, and fully hers. Dr. Brunston, a nurse called, pointing to a patient chart. "You and Dr. Navajo scheduled double rounds today?" Calliope smirked, shooting Mahaly a glance. "Looks like it. Prepare to be amazed at how well I can multitask." Mahaly laughed softly. "You know, I'll allow a little showing off. But only a little." Throughout the morning, their movements were synchronized, almost instinctively. In the OR, they communicated with subtle gestures, a tilt of the head, a shift of a gloved hand, a glance, and the chaos of surgery became a stage where their intimacy and trust shone. During a brief coffee break, they sat together in the staff lounge, laughing over a spilled cup of espresso. "See," Calliope said, wiping the dark stain off the counter with a napkin. "Even disasters are more fun with you around." Mahaly leaned back, stretching her arms over her head. "I could get used to this. You, me, controlled chaos, caffeine, and laughter. I could live in this moment forever." Home life, however, was where the magic deepened. Their apartment was quiet now, a sanctuary of soft light and familiar scents. Calliope cooked dinner while Mahaly perched on the counter, offering advice or criticism, depending on how the onions were chopped. "You call that diced?" Mahaly teased, rolling her eyes. "I've seen toddlers do better." Calliope laughed, nudging Mahaly gently with her hip. "Then come chop your own onions, Miss Senior Attending." After dinner, they sprawled on the couch, Mahaly's head resting on Calliope's shoulder, fingers intertwined, feet tangled. Soft music filled the background, but their conversation meandered freely: work stories, hospital gossip, the occasional playful jab about who forgot to do what in the kitchen. When exhaustion finally set in, they retired to their shared bedroom. Nights were no longer solitary stretches of work-induced fatigue. They whispered, laughed quietly, traced the outlines of each other's faces, reliving memories and making new ones. Even mundane moments, like Mahaly brushing Calliope's hair while she checked patient charts, or Calliope leaning against Mahaly while she cooked breakfast, became acts of intimacy. Their laughter echoed through the apartment, soft and full of life, a counterpoint to the intensity of their hospital days. And through it all, the bond was constant. Calls for advice, late-night texts about patient updates, shared coffee during chaotic mornings. They were partners in every sense. Calliope often paused in the quiet, watching Mahaly move through their shared world, and thought, "This is real. This is ours." Chapter 25: The Critical Hour. The hospital buzzed with urgency, a sharp contrast to the calm morning they'd shared. Calliope and Mahaly were summoned simultaneously to the trauma wing. A patient, a young teacher from a local school, had been in a multi-vehicle accident, arriving with critical chest injuries and internal bleeding. "Looks messy," Mahaly murmured under her breath as they reviewed the vitals and imaging together. Calliope nodded, scanning the monitors with practiced precision. "We don't just stabilize. This is going to require immediate thoracotomy. If we fail, it's not just a life we lose, it's a potential headline for the hospital tomorrow." Mahaly's hand brushed against Calliope's as they scrubbed in, a fleeting touch that grounded them both in the moment. "Let's make sure tomorrow's headlines celebrate us, not shame us," she said with a tight smile. Inside the OR, the air was electric. Nurses moved like clockwork, machines beeped in tension, and the patient's vitals wavered dangerously. "Scalpel," Calliope requested, voice steady. Mahaly handed it over without hesitation, fingers brushing briefly in silent rhythm. The next hour stretched like a lifetime. Bleeding was worse than expected. One wrong move could trigger catastrophic collapse. But together, they moved as one. Mahaly held pressure where Calliope made the incision, eyes sharp, guiding the procedure with calm authority. "You've got a lacerated pulmonary artery," Calliope said, leaning over the patient. Mahaly nodded, her hands steady. "I'm on it," she murmured. Sutures, clamps, and careful pressure, every action calculated, every breath synchronized. Minutes felt like hours. Nurses whispered updates. Machines hissed warnings. And through it all, Calliope and Mahaly were a single force of precision and trust. Finally, the bleeding stopped. The artery held. Vitals stabilized. They stepped back, sweat gleaming on foreheads, hearts pounding, not just from exertion, but from relief and triumph. The patient's family arrived shortly afterward. Their gratitude was overwhelming. The hospital administration, who had been monitoring the case closely, praised the duo for not just saving a life, but restoring faith in the hospital's trauma capabilities. Later, in a quiet corner of the break room, Calliope finally let herself exhale, leaning against Mahaly. "We did it. That was insane." Mahaly wrapped an arm around her, pulling her close. "You didn't just save the patient. You saved the hospital's reputation too. And look at us, surviving yet another storm, together." Calliope laughed, a short, relieved sound. "I think we make a terrifyingly good team." Mahaly smiled, brushing her lips against Calliope's temple. Not terrifying. Legendary. And, in that shared silence, amidst adrenaline, exhaustion, and triumph, they realized something. Life's hardest battles were still easier to face together, and that their connection, both professional and personal, was now unbreakable. Chapter 26. After the Storm. The Ur lights were finally dimmed, and the adrenaline still hummed faintly in their veins. Calliope leaned back in the break room chair, scrub sleeves rolled up, face still streaked with sweat and traces of surgical grime. Mahaly sat across from her, mask lowered, hair loose, hands idly tracing the rim of her coffee cup. "Do you ever get tired of saving lives?" Calliope asked, voice half joking, half exhausted. Mahaly smirked. "Not when I have a partner like you. But yes, my knees are going to remind me for a week." Calliope laughed, a sound that finally felt free, unburdened by the tension of the morning. "I think my adrenaline is still arguing with my bladder, but I'll take it." Mahaly tilted her head. "I think you secretly enjoy it. The thrill. The chaos. Admit it, Dr. Brunston." "Secretly? Maybe. Publicly? Definitely not," Calliope shot back, smirking. "I prefer to look calm, collected, terrifyingly professional." Mahaly's laugh rang out, warm and teasing. "Terrifyingly professional, huh? That's one way to put it. I'd call it dangerously brilliant." Calliope shook her head, smiling. "See? You encourage me." They shared a quiet moment, hands brushing across the table. It was simple, intimate, entirely theirs. The hospital hum faded around them, leaving only the soft echo of laughter and shared relief. "Want to grab something to eat?" Mahaly asked after a beat. "My treat." "I insist." Calliope glanced at her, mock offense in her eyes. "You insist?" Dangerous words, Navajo. "That's how people get into trouble with me." "I like trouble," Mahaly said softly, leaning forward just enough for their knees to touch. "Especially with you." Calliope let out a small laugh, heartwarm, nerves finally settling. "You know, we could do this forever. Save lives, eat bad cafeteria food at midnight, laugh until it hurts." Mahaly reached over, brushing a strand of hair from Calliope's face, lingering a little too long. "Forever doesn't sound so bad," she whispered. And in that small, unremarkable hospital break room, after saving a life and restoring the hospital's reputation, Calliope and Mahaly let themselves simply exist together. No ghosts, no pressure, no storm, just presence, laughter, and love that had finally caught up to them. Epilogue, Found in Love. The small chapel was bathed in soft morning light, filtered through stained glass that painted warm colors across the polished floors. Friends and colleagues from the hospital filled the seats, smiling, whispering, and occasionally wiping happy tears. Mahaly's parents stood proudly at the front, their presence grounding the ceremony in ancestral respect. Calliope adjusted the lace of her dress nervously, but when Mahaly's hand found hers, all the anxiety melted. Mahaly's dark eyes held a quiet strength, a reassurance that no storm, past or present, could break them apart. The officiant cleared their throat. "We are gathered here today to witness and celebrate the union of Calliope Brunston and Abe K. Mahaly Navajo." Calliope glanced at Mahaly, lips twitching in a smile. Mahaly's smile mirrored hers, calm and radiant. As they exchanged vows, words became secondary to the heartbeat between them. A whisper, a glance, a squeeze of hands, they were promises written in presence, not just syllables. Then came Mahaly's parents, stepping forward with ceremonial items. A beautiful ancestral robe, hand-woven and rich with symbols, was draped over Calliope's shoulders. The weight of history and love rested there, tangible and real. From this day forward, Mahaly's mother intoned, "You are not only a partner to our daughter, but also a part of our people. This robe is a symbol of acceptance, respect, and honor." Her father held a small carved token, pressing it gently into Calliope's hand. "And with it, your Apache name. You shall be known as Tselu, meaning heart of the river. May it guide your path, honor your courage, and remind you of the family you now belong to." Tears welled in Calliope's eyes, but Mahaly squeezed her hand and whispered, "You're ours. And we are yours." Calliope smiled through the emotion, leaning forward to press her lips to Mahaly's. The kiss was slow, grounding, a promise in itself of love, patience, and the life they would build together. When they pulled back, the chapel erupted in applause. Laughter, tears, and cheer filled the space. Colleagues teased them about who would hog the coffee machine, who would claim bragging rights in the oar, but Calliope and Mahaly simply laughed along, together, unstoppable, and completely at home in each other's world. Outside, the sun warmed the courtyard. Mahaly draped an arm around Calliope's waist, while Calliope rested her head against Mahaly's shoulder. They were more than a couple, they were a bridge between tradition and modernity, spirit and flesh, past and future. And in that quiet, sunlit moment, they knew they had finally come home. Life after the wedding. Morning light. Mahaly and Calliope share quiet breakfasts, leaning against each other in the sunlit kitchen, coffee mugs in hand, laughter spilling over the counter. Calliope still teases Mahaly about cutting onions like a toddler. Mahaly retorts with mock offense. Hospital harmony. In the oar, their synergy is effortless. One glance, one subtle gesture, and a complex surgery flows seamlessly. Colleagues whisper about their unspoken rhythm and teamwork legend. Weekend adventures. Hiking the nearby trails, Mahaly teasing Calliope when she stumbles over roots. They pause at a cliff's edge, wind in their hair, just holding hands, soaking in the landscape. Evening rituals. Cooking together, dancing to soft music in the kitchen, playful arguments about the best way to season pasta. Occasionally, they collapse onto the couch, tangle of limbs, sharing whispered jokes and gentle kisses. Celebrations. Birthdays, anniversaries, hospital milestones. Calliope gifts Mahaly a handcrafted stethoscope charm. Mahaly hides a note in Calliope's scrub pocket before a long shift. Their love is woven into everyday life, both extraordinary and mundane. Quiet nights. Reading together, Calliope's head on Mahaly's shoulder, Mahaly tracing circles on Calliope's hand. They fall asleep together, a shared rhythm of breathing, heartbeats, and warmth. Legacy of Juliet. Occasionally, they pause to honor Juliet's memory, a quiet ritual at her favorite tree, a soft smile, a whispered thanks. Her sacrifice is never forgotten, and it binds them closer. This story closes with them walking hand in hand across a sun-drenched courtyard, laughter echoing, unshakable in love, and utterly at home in the world they've built together. Thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe and like this video and follow me for more stories. You are always welcome here, and leave me a comment or a thumbs up, just letting me know if you like the story and would like more, or is there perhaps an idea that you would like to share or let me write for you.